Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with another in my selective reviews of the Markus Poschner Bruckner cycle. Now, here we have Symphony number 3. And there are, three versions of it, 3 main versions, plus an extra Adagio, all of which Poschner has recorded or is recording. And I have to say, his performances of at least the first version, the original one, which I've heard, and the last one I haven't yet because I won't listen to it, unless I absolutely have to, are very, very fast. Incredibly fast. Unbelievably zippy. In keeping with sort of the influence of period instrument things, which means, you'd play everything at double tempo or something like that. I'm not sure the music benefits from that. It really doesn't, especially here. Let's talk about what we've got here and why I think some of it may be exciting and some of it is not. So, the 1877 version was Bruckner's preferred version of the 3 versions. There was the original one, and then this one that was premiered in Vienna, that disastrous premiere that had, Mahler applauding like crazy because he prepared the piano score of the symphony. And then an 1889/90 version, which had some influential input from Bruckner's supposed buddies, the Schock brothers or Lowe, or one of those guys. And they just cut the crap out of the finale, and it makes nonsense of the movement, quite frankly. It's quite unfortunate. And some bits of the first movement, too. So this is the one to listen to. 1877. Remember that year. Remember that with in connection with Symphony number 3. Now, as I said, Bruckner never asks for things to go very quickly. He just doesn't, usually. And this is really, really, really fast. So fast, in my view, that you really can't wrap your brain around what the music is doing. You hear this particularly in the lyrical second subjects. I mean, the opening, sure. It's just an ostinato, and you can blur it up all you want with excessive speed. I find the opening trumpet is not prominent enough, so you don't really hear the tune the way you should at the very beginning. And the rest of it, you might find it exciting. I didn't. I just found it kind of scattered. But that's because I know what it sounds like at slower tempos. So it could be that I'm just used to slower tempos. I mean, I'm more than willing to admit these things. And I do like different points of view when they make sense. But it seems to me that the first movement is problematic. The Adagio is also rather quick. I like it to have a little bit more breadth. Da, 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 da. It doesn't have to rush. No one's going anywhere. It doesn't have to be do, 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 do. I mean, it's marked here Andante bewegt, feierlich quasi Adagio. All right, so, moving Andante, I get it. It's okay. I'll accept that. Next, we have the Scherzo, which is ziemlich schnell, moderately quick. This just flies by. Well, it's so fast you don't hear those I mean, those are the melodic and motivic principal ideas in the movement, and you've really got to hear them. You can't just blur your way past them, and when it does that sort of, lyrical Landler thing after the opening settles down, it's like, whoosh, it's all just in a rush. It's breathless, frankly, breathless. And the finale. Oh, the finale. Well, I like the opening. I mean, the opening is always going to sound fast. It's going to sound fast because you've got that string ostinato underneath it. You're just going chugga 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 chugga. So it's doing that. And whether you're going chugga 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 like this, or you're going chugga 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 chugga, it's going to sound quick because of the repetition of music in short notes. Unless you're someone like Celibidache, you're going cha 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 cha. No, I'm just kidding. But usually it's going to be quick, and that's fine. So I don't care how fast he takes that. If the orchestra's hanging on for dear life, good for them and good for him. But oh, the polka. Oh my goodness, the polka with the chorale, second subject. You know, ya dum, bum ba da 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 dum bum bum bum. Oh, that needs to have charm. It has to have charm. It's not a fast polka. You know, I mean, it's not the beer barrel polka that Bruckner's doing, and the chorale, which has to contrast with it. You know, on top of it. Oh, this is all just wrong. It's all just wrong. It sounds completely unstylish, and lacking in charm and graciousness. You know, that sort of Austrian Gemütlichkeit quality that Bruckner really had, and he captured it so beautifully. You know, that folk-like element, which never goes at a billion miles an hour. This goes at a billion miles an hour. So I think that's just goofy. I really do. And the end is very exciting. I mean, there are just some very exciting things. The orchestra plays well. The sonics are good. It's not a crime that he's committing here, but I just find that the frantic pace of the outer movements, especially lyrical music, when you can relax and when you should. By the way, remember, Bruckner's sense of form, such as it was, really requires not that you elide sections together, not that you play everything at the same tempo. It really requires that you segregate things. I mean, give each sound block its own character. And that can mean in its own tempo, because Bruckner indicates that. We're not talking about like faking it here, right? I mean, he indicates it either by telling people to slow down, or he indicates it simply by the nature of the notation and by having pauses and things. You know, these thematic blocks, they need to be characterized. And when you're rushing through everything at top speed in his alleged sonata form movements, it creates actually greater monotony, not less, because you don't have time to take in the contrast and enjoy it for itself. You know, these are moments that have to be savored individually. And so I find the first movement and the last movement of this to be comparative failures. Well, the Scherzo isn't much either. I mean, it's fast and scherzi, but scherzi and too fast. The Adagio works fine. Now, we also get here the Adagio of 1876. Now, this was a separate version of the slow movement that Bruckner was working on while he was working on the whole symphony. Does anyone care or need to know that there are 4 versions of the Adagio of this symphony? I will give you the answer to that. No. Nobody needs to know this other version, and it's completely irrelevant and worthless, and it wasn't worth recovering. The differences are pretty minimal. You know, they're in accompanimental figures, a little bit of orchestration here and there, a couple of bars here or there. You know, it's not like we're talking about what happened to the finale of this symphony between 1877 and 1890, where it got, you know, mutilated. There's nothing like that here. This is just Bruckner improvising on paper. And it doesn't do us any good to know that he was improvising on paper. What are we going to do with this extra slow movement? You want to stuff it into a performance of the whole symphony? Do you want to play it separately? And there's a fascinating little note here where they say, where Kerrigan, you know, the apostle of Bruckner, of the Bruckner god, says that the public has not yet made up its mind which of the version of the Third Symphony it prefers, so we should just play all of them. Well, that is so typically putsy of the Bruckner people, quite frankly. Why? Because how is the public going to make up its mind? I mean, when you're presenting everything as though everything is equally marvelous, and nobody hears the damn thing enough to really make up their mind unless they're like crazies like me or Bruckner people otherwise. You know, they're not going to be able to render a judgment. What needs to happen, of course, is that you can't abdicate your responsibility as a musically insightful human being, supposedly, and not choose. You got to choose. And the choice is this version, irrespective of whether I like this performance or not. The choice is the 1877 version. And if that is what everybody played and decided that was the one to do, and the others are just, you know, interesting musicological artifacts, then that would be the Bruckner Third. And if people liked Bruckner Third, that would be the Bruckner Third. But to expect people to listen to 3 versions of the same damn symphony plus an extra Adagio and then decide to the extent that the universe has made up its mind which version is best, when this whole apparatus is doing its best to undermine that very judgmental possibility. Oh, it's what annoys me most about this entire process. So there you go. It has its moments. It's not really to my taste. If you want to hear Bruckner Third played Lickety-Split, then go ahead, give this a shot. You may enjoy it more than I did. I don't deny that it was exciting. What it isn't is thoughtful. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me, and take care.